Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Farmer. I am the festival director of Out on Film, Atlanta's LGBTQ Film Festival. Our festival runs this year from September the 26th to October 6th, and we have some amazing films. One of the films I'm very, very excited about is Mother, Father, Sister, Brother Frank. And we have the director, Caden Douglas, to talk to us right now. I'm going to read a description of the film, and then we're going to jump into some questions with Caden.
Sounds
It
great.
it's Sunday family dinner, and you can cut the tension with a knife. Dad's drinking, Jim's buried in his phone, Jolene's on a cleanse, and Mom's doing her best to cover the silence with idle chit chat. On the surface, they seem like a happy family, but trouble is brewing. When Uncle Frank shows up and the adult children learn that he's been blackmailing their parents, the Jennings thoughts turn to murder. Once the haze of bloodlust, wine, and pie clears, the Jennings realize they have no clue how to be murderers, how to get rid of a body, or how the hell to get out of this bloody mess. I am very, very happy that we're showing this film. Please welcome Caden Douglas.
Hey, it's nice to be here. We're super thrilled you guys are screening
Oh,
us.
I'm so happy that we're showing this. So thanks for bringing this to our attention. Well, how did this project come up for you?
Yeah, I think the project I initially kind of thought of the title first, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I woke up, sometimes you get ideas in the middle of the night and I woke up and was like, oh, what if that was the name of a movie? And then as it kind of expanded, it's a lot about I grew up in a small conservative part of Canada,
Yeah.
in the suburbs, and and I think there's a lot of growing up queer. I kind of didn't give my family enough credit for how they were going to respond to it,
Yeah.
and I did a lot of had a lot of internalized homophobia. So the movie's really about it's a kind of a metaphor, a loose comic metaphor about the spaces between us, and we're not being honest with each other. And so a lot of what the family's problems are is that they all have secrets. They're all sitting in secrets and they're not letting the secrets out. And what happened when I came out is that, my family was super supportive and they were all really amazing and the burden was really lifted. And so ultimately the movie's kind of that idea, right? Like if you face your truths head on, if you allow your burden to be shared with your family or the people that love you, the load is a little bit lighter to carry.
Okay. Were there any particular inspirations in terms of the stuff? Because this is a film that, does have a lot of laughs, but some gore as well. So were there what ins I mean, are there any films or projects that inspired you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Fargo is a big inspiration for this movie. Clue, from the 80s, the kind
Yeah.
of with Tim Curry, it's a classic farce.
Mhm.
Death at a Funeral, the kind of British farce too. It's a real farce. It's like a dark farce,
Mhm.
is often how I describe it. So I'd say all of those movies are definitely touchstones as we were working on it.
Nice. I mentioned this a few moments ago, but can you sort of talk about the balance of comedy, with some sinister elements and a little bit of gore? Can you sort of talk about how you worked on getting that tone?
Yeah, I know. Ultimately, it's funny, like when we actually started shooting the movie, the production designer brought me over like a bucket of body parts and skin and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, what? And he was like, well, this is all in the movie. And I was like, wait, I totally forgot. Because in a lot of ways, I always think of it as just being kind of like a family comedy drama, like a fun family comedy thing. And then you're like, oh yeah, there's also like a lot of blood in it. Um, so for me, I think all of that kind of is a fun secondary thing to what's at the core of the movie, which is the family. So the balance is hopefully you'll laugh, hopefully you'll be a little bit like, oh God, that's gross. And then hopefully you'll, get a little touch, you'll be touched by the end of the film.
Exactly. I don't want to give too much away because I mean there are some spoilers, but um can you talk a little bit about the character of Jim
Yeah, for sure.
and
Uh,
what else going on with his life and as he's dealing with his own issues and being part of the family dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jim's the queer son. He's the gay member of the family, and he and without giving too much away, doesn't give too much away. He is having a bit of relationship trouble with his husband that we find out
Mhm.
later on in the film. And so I think he, kind of similarly, I think people who grow up in the Midwest, people who kind of grow up, where I'm from, or lots of different places, there's kind of like an unspoken rule of you can be gay but like don't be too loud, or like kind of don't stand out too much, don't you kind of diminish yourself a little bit in the hopes of acceptance. And I think Jim is a little bit scared and a little bit reserved because he's not fully being himself. And over the course of the movie, he's kind of able to be a little bit more fully the person that he is, even though they're doing these kind of like crazy acts of violence. Part of it is him coming into himself as a more kind of fully formed queer character.
Yeah. Let's talk about this ensemble. I mean, the ensemble is amazing, but obviously Mindy Cohn, I mean, everywhere you look, there's a great performer. Just talk about how you rounded up all these people and brought them together.
Yeah, absolutely. So Minnie was the first to sign on to the film. She actually was in an acting class with my husband, Mike, who's also a producer on the film, and they
Mm.
kind of met each other way back. They were both doing shows in Toronto many, many years ago, and they connected there. And then when we moved out to LA, Mike ran into her, funnily enough, really early on, and they ended up being the same acting class. And then we did a short film with her, and so she's been a friend of ours for a while now. She's a wonderful, wonderful lady, and we're so excited that she's having so much success right now with Palm Royale, and she's got a
Yeah.
couple of movies coming out. She's really having a great time right now. So she was first on, and she said she was like, it's always been a bucket list role for me to kill somebody in a movie, and so she was like, I want to do this kind of this
Yeah.
horror movie, which is great. Um, and then Enrico Colantoni, who's been on Veronica Mars. He's having a lot of success. He's on The English Teacher. He's hilarious on that show that just came out. Veronica Mars, like he's been on a ton of Just Shoot Me. He's a comedy legend. And so the executive producers of our film, Highball TV, they had a connection to him, and so we kind of reached out to him hoping he would say yes, and he really loved the script and he responded to it, so he hopped on. And then Melanie and Ian, who kind of rounded out the family, we auditioned for folks in Toronto because we shot the movie in Toronto. And I had known Melanie's work previously through friends, and I've always been a big fan of her and her talent. But Ian was a fresh face for us, and we met him just through casting, and it was so wonderful because he filmed this tape, and right away I was like, this is Jim, this is the guy, and I'm so glad that we were able to get Ian because he's so funny and so charming, and he's so perfect for this role.
Mm.
Yeah, just a great, and he's a great physical comedian too. So we were super lucky.
So, can you talk a little bit about, where you are with the film? Because if I'm correct, you premiered at Inside Out earlier this.
No, we actually premiered it at Panic Fest in Kansas City, but
Okay.
we did play Inside Out in Toronto,
Okay.
which was amazing. We had a sold out screening
Yeah.
at the TIFF Lightbox, which was a kind of a career highlight for me. It was
Oh
wonderful
yeah.
to Yeah, I lived in Toronto for quite a while, so it was amazing to go home
Mm.
or go back to Toronto and walk down King Street and see the movie kind of like up in lights at the TIFF Lightbox. It was really special. But yeah, we've had an excellent kind of festival run. We've played, I think by the time we're done, it'll be about like 35 festivals,
Wow.
queer festivals, horror festivals, not genre festivals. We've won some awards, which has been really great, and audiences seem to be really loving it. The fun thing about this movie is I think it's great to see with an audience because it's so much more fun to hear the laughs and hear people go, oh no, and all that kind of stuff. But we're finishing up we're kind of, you guys are on the tail end of our festival run, and the movie is going to be coming out online on October 8th. I can share more details about where a little bit
Oh,
closer to the
nice.
date, but we're going to be having our online premiere coming up at the beginning of October, just
Nice.
in time for spooky season and for
Exactly.
Thanksgiving, all those good fall holidays, which is kind of like a
That's
winter movie.
great. I'm glad we could sneak it into our lineup before you got distribution. That's great for us. So,
Yeah, so
um, well, congratulations. So, what are you working on next?
I have a couple features coming up, or not a couple features coming up. A couple features that we're trying to get made next. So if you know anybody who wants to, invest in a film, send them my way. If they like this and they want to see more, one is called The King and Eileen, and it's about a 79-year-old cosmetic saleswoman who loses her job, so she hits the road with an Elvis impersonator slash preacher, and they kind of
Okay.
they kind of have this unlikely friendship
Yeah.
changes, and he's able to kind of break down her walls, and she's able to break down his walls, and they get to know each other. And then the other one is called American Beef, and it's about an old guy who changed himself to an Arby's in small town Idaho because the Arby's is closing, and there's a young queer Mexican kid who runs the Arby's, and he is tasked with getting rid of him, and they kind of have a clash of things, and it's ultimately the first generation Mexican queer manager of the Arby's. It's his journey about coming into his authentic self as a queer person. He's similar to Ian in this movie, he's a little bit like guarded around his sexuality and ends up having a great big romance and goes off and kind of has a bright future and leaves Arby's behind. So they're
Oh,
both kind of fun comedies.
exactly. When is that one going to be filmed?
Well, we're hoping we're still kind of putting together the team and putting together investments and stuff. So we're currently looking for investing in both of
Yeah.
those. Right now the King Eileen is out to some great talent that we're hoping is going to say yes. So fingers
Great.
crossed that they attach, and then we'll hopefully be able to move forward.
That's great. All right, the film Mother, Father, Sister, Brother Frank is directed by Caden Douglas and screens Saturday, September the 28th at 9:15 at the Midtown Art Cinema as part of Out on the Film. Caden, thank you so much for sharing this film with us. I'm sure audiences are going to love it. And thank you so much time. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. We're so excited, and I hope you guys will enjoy it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.